He's not free to go about and do what he wants to do. For the next, 89 months or thereabouts, he's going to be under the control of the federal government. And that's no little thing for a guy like this.
I've interacted with him. I've worked on the facility with him. I've conversed with him. Not in-depth conversation, but he's very respectful. He's well aware of his surroundings. Nothing really matters anymore.
Well, it makes sense, right? I mean, he's very high profile.
Yeah.
Ex-prisoners, criminal lawyers, and even prison wardens are now predicting what life behind bars is going to be like for Diddy. Diddy was attacked at the MDC and almost shanked. There is a target on his back, and it's only going to get worse. The crimes he committed and the people he hurt are coming back to haunt him. And not only that, but even after getting out, things aren't going to be easy. Diddy's list of restrictions that he is going to have to follow after release have just been announced. And if Diddy messes up, he could go back inside.
Here's the thing. Diddy is symptomatic of just power gone awry. He's going to have to register as a sex offender. And he'll probably have to do that for 10 years. And if he doesn't, guess what? That's a separate crime altogether. So this can follow him. So if you're thinking, oh, Diddy got off, blah, blah. Well, his lawyers did a good job. And, he still has the right to appeal his conviction and his sentence. And it ain't going to go anywhere because the evidence of the Mann Act violations were overwhelming. He's now tagged with 2 felonies. He's not free to go about and do what he wants to do. For the next, 89 months or thereabouts, he's going to be under the control of the federal government. And that's no little thing for a guy like this. So here's what supervised release is going to be like for him. It'll be intense at first. They'll drug test him. They'll put monitoring software on his devices. They will, they'll have constant meetings and check-ins and that kind of thing once he gets out of prison. And as time goes on and he demonstrates compliance, the supervision will get less and less intense, probably to the point where he just has to call in once in a while. But if you get too complacent and all of a sudden, you don't register, or all of a sudden, porn's an addiction, right? And, if you're looking at porn all the time, guess what? It's tough to stop that. It just is. And I've known clients that have, violated their conditions over and over again, and they wind up going back to prison. Now, Diddy seems to me like he's got some discipline. He knows where he wants to be, where he doesn't want to be. And I don't think you're going to see too much trouble with Diddy. I just don't think you're going to. But very well could be that he doesn't follow the rules. And, the first violation could be like 18 months. The second violation could be this, Or he could be demonstrating such good compliance that he gets off early.
Diddy has to register as a sex offender for the next 10 years, even after he gets out of prison. And that's going to make his life infinitely more worse than what it already is. The same freedom that turned Diddy into a monster has now been taken away from him. And if Diddy makes any mistakes, the feds are going to send him right back inside. Diddy's life is going to change forever. And the impact the sentence is going to have on him is insane. No more freak-offs.
But he still has to register as a sex offender. He still has to do all these different things. Even after he's off of supervised release, he'll still have to register. And if he goes to Miami, because his home's in New York, he's got to check in with the local sheriff and say, hey, sex offender in town, that's what he got to do. I mean, this is not an easy thing for him to have to deal with down the road. But is it life in prison? No, it's not. Is it 20 years in prison? No, it's not. Is it even 10 years? No, it's not. But it's still going to be something he has to deal with. So it's no little thing that he is part of this community of people that have to be supervised, and he gave the government a big foray into controlling his life. And that's what happens when you decide to break the law.
According to former mobster Michael Frenzy, Diddy can use his money to buy friends and try to stay safe. In the next few weeks, the Bureau of Prisons is going to finalize where they're going to send Diddy. And wherever Diddy goes, he's going to need to buy protection. Diddy still has $1 million, and some inmates are going cozy up to him for it while others target him.
Is the camp the lowest security and therefore more paddle and tennis and all the other things and what they call Club Fed or Camp Cupcake?
Yeah, they moved me to a camp by accident at one point, and there's no fences or anything like that, and I wasn't there for too long because they realized they made a mistake and put me back in the medium security. But they tell you when you get there, listen, there's no fences. If you want to leave, you can leave, but when we catch you, we're going to add another 5 years onto your sentence. And while I was in that camp for 2 months, each month somebody ran away. I mean, they always try to do that. But yeah, he's thinking of that. Yeah, he's thinking of that. But a medium security is not that bad.
Let me quickly go back though. Go back to that piece about he's high profile, so he won't get a camp. Why wouldn't he? I thought in a camp nobody's going to shank him because again they want out.
The overriding factor there, I believe, is he's a guy with a lot of money. And I'll tell you, this happened to me when I went in there because of the profile I had, because of the way they wrote me up. I had everybody and their brother inmate trying to do a deal with me when I got out, a business deal. They need money. Because of the fact that he's a money guy, I think he's going to have more friends than he will enemies. And in a medium security, normally nobody's looking to shank you. When you get into the higher institutions, when people are doing, a ton of time and there's no way you can benefit them, then you got a little more problem. But in a medium security, I don't think he'll have an issue at all. I really don't. He can be too much of a benefit to inmates that are always looking for something. And he could be a golden ticket for some people, at least in their mind.
Diddy's lawyers have submitted a letter to the judge asking for Diddy to be sent to Fort Dix, claiming that it is close to New York and Diddy wants his family to visit. The real reason Diddy picked Fort Dix, however, is because it is a low-security prison and because of the drug program it offers. Fort Dix offers inmates the option of joining the RDAP program. The RDAP is an intensive 500-hour, 9-month substance use treatment program for inmates. Completing it could entitle Combs to as much as a full year's early release from behind bars.
I only have a little bit of time left. I got to switch gears real quick to Diddy. So he is asked to be sent to a low-security prison out in New Jersey for where he will serve his, prison term. 4 years, served already 1, so 3, maybe out in 2.5. Do you think he's going to get that request? Do you think he's going to serve it at this low-security prison in New Jersey?
It seems like the logical place for him to go. I mean, you've got, based on all of the factors and everything else that goes into the Bureau of Prisons, when they get the file, so to speak, they get the PSR, which is the pre-sentence report. They have a certain criteria, and a lot of that criteria has to do with geographic location and then the severity of the sentence and the charges. All of that would tend to lean towards the placement at this New Jersey facility. So I would say on a bell curve, 80% shot.
Diddy is a drug addict, and he thinks that completing this drug program could help him get a year off. There is a huge risk here, though. One of the release conditions that the judge included is that Diddy will be monitored for drug use. This means that Diddy's parole officer could walk into his house whenever he wants and test Diddy for drugs. If he finds out that Diddy is using, Diddy is going back to prison.
Is this all pretty par for the course, pretty standard?
Yeah, so look, a lot of these conditions sound pretty harsh, but they're pretty standard. Things, as you mentioned, like no contact with victims, also no contact with other criminals, no access to firearms, also unsupervised, or visits, drop-in visits from probation officers at any time, mandatory employment. So many of these are standard. But what I do think is notable is the addition of required treatment programs. And it's not just one, right? It is domestic violence, but also drug abuse and also mental health. The reason why it's so notable is because we all remember the defense described this as a modern love story. And even though Combs was acquitted of the most egregious charges, it's really a message from the court saying there's really still something that is not right here. There's treatment that is required. There's issues that need to be resolved.
Can you tell us a little bit about his living conditions? Because I know that he's currently in Brooklyn, but he's actually asked to be moved to a federal facility. Why? What would that do to his living conditions?
Okay, so very specifically, he's requesting to be moved to Fort Dix, to a low security prison. So that would very much ameliorate, improve his living conditions from where he is in Brooklyn. So this low security prison is more like a dorm-like setting and also has a specific drug abuse treatment program that he's requesting to be a part of. And sometimes people who go through this program successfully can get time off at the end.
Well, Angela, we also know that Diddy is going to be required to work 30 hours a week upon his release. Do we know if that's like, he can just do whatever he wants? He's the owner, obviously, of a company, CEO. Or is this something that the state or the courts are going to mandate?
So this is interesting. It is pretty standard, and the legal language is work conscientiously at suitable employment. So that doesn't mean that the government can tell him what job to do, but it does mean that the probation officer can veto what he chooses. And the real point here is access and rehabilitation and not a lot of free time, requiring structure. So given that his employment is generally self-employment and a lot of free time, it's not clear here how the probation officer will respond to that, what sort of restrictions they will put. But yeah, the probation officer can say, this is not okay. Too much free time on your hand.
Diddy is scared and allegedly started crying after his sentence was announced. He's afraid of what the prisoners might do to him after they find out that he was abusing women. Normally, you don't even go to prison for violations of the Mann Act, but Diddy was sentenced to 4 years based solely on the amount of violence he was responsible for. Diddy was already almost shanked, and he's not taking any chances again.
Yeah.
Is he safe though? And you say something about him getting stabbed?
I was going to say, Diddy's team is saying no, he's not going to be safe, because in court we found out that there was an attempt on Diddy's life, that there was a man that attempted to shank him, but they stopped it, the correctional officers, and they say Diddy didn't even want people to know that he didn't want to make it a big deal. But of course they're having that conversation about will he be safe because of who he is and how high profile this case is.
Right.
They're also having a conversation. Mark Geragos is a high profile attorney, a friend of Diddy's, but also the dad of Teeny Geragos, who led Diddy's defense about Diddy potentially being raped in court. And we can and just attacks on his life, because they say that people look at him as like a trophy or a prize, and to do something to him.
Well, what if other inmates hear all of the stuff that we've been hearing in the news all of these weeks, and they scared of Diddy?
That's not how they presented it. I don't.
That's crazy to say Diddy's a trophy. Like, he's looked at as a trophy in jail is crazy. Isn't that crazy?
But even more, Charlamagne talking about the inmates gonna be scared.
The lawyers, when they were speaking on Diddy being in prison and the circumstances him being in prison, I didn't never hear about this, and nobody ever said anything about this. And I want to know if it's in the prison records. They said one of the guards stopped a dude from shanking Diddy. Now, I'm like, if he was doing all this positive shit in jail, and they was talking about he was all the inmates loved him and they was employing him and doing standing ovation, I wonder what inmate was trying to shank him. Was that one of the Tupac? Was that one of the Tupac fans, or that was one of Biggie fans? Because they said that the guard, they said that in court. One of the lawyers, one of the guards stopped one of the individuals that was trying to shank him, bruh. And that was crazy. Nobody, I never, that didn't leak. Everything leaks from prison, but that didn't leak. Nobody wrote home and said, yo, dudes is in here trying to stab Diddy up. But the lawyers mentioned that today. I want to see if they're going to investigate that right there. You know what I'm saying? And base that, or he probably used that, base that on trying to help Diddy getting into one of those camps or one of those programs that, you know, he ain't got to worry about nothing. And what's crazy is this, he got to worry about something now. You understand? Because he thought he didn't have to worry about nothing, because he thought he was going to a speaking engagement. They was that bold enough to be setting up speaking engagements as if he was going to get out of jail.
Inmates that were charged with the same crimes as Diddy have also confirmed that if other prisoners find out what Diddy did to women, they're going to come after him. Diddy is worried about what life in Gen Pop will be like for him. Even during his stay at the MDC, Diddy spent most of his time in protective custody and suicide watch.
I mean, what this guy did is disgusting. I don't think there's a person alive, a man or a woman, especially women, who are not going to hate this guy. Whatever he did was completely disgusting. It's beyond criminal. I don't even know what it is. I look at it like he disgraced everybody. He disgraced the black race by being a black man. I know a lot of black people, and they hate him for it because it painted a picture towards all of them. I think it's being followed all over the world. If he's not found guilty, or he's cut free, or he does a short amount of time, I mean, I could only imagine what the whole world would think. This is a disgusting country.
Guys in the mob did some terrible, terrible things. The murders were gruesome and violent and painful, and they served a purpose. They were meant to terrify people into staying in line, right? Compare that to the things that you've heard alleged from the witness stand and testimony under oath from a lot of these young women and some of the young men who were his assistants. Compare the guys in the mob to the stuff you're hearing alleged against Diddy.
If we did that in the mob, we would be killed for it. We would never touch women and children and stuff like that. So that's against our rules, our principles. We would never get away with something like that. There was a guy, Roy DeMeo and Gas Pipe, who became serial killers, killing for no reason, and they were killed. So, I mean, if he was in the mafia, he would, and we knew what he was doing, he would have been killed. There would be no trial.
Gene Deal used to work in the prison system, and from his experience, guys like Diddy don't last long. Diddy only has to spend around 2 years in prison. But mentally, he's just not ready. He might even think about harming himself if things get too tough. During his sentencing hearing, it was clear that Diddy wasn't doing too good. His hair had turned white, and he had lost a ton of weight.
Because you told me he was suicidal. That's why I asked.
Everybody's suicidal when they first go to prison. Everybody's suicidal. If you've never been to prison before, you've never been behind bars, everybody is suicidal. Then you get used to it. It becomes your livelihood. You learn how to stay alive. You got a crust of bread in the corner to sleep in. Everything else is a blessing.
But you knowing Diddy personally, do you think it's possible he might take his life?
It takes a certain individual to prepare himself to do a lot of years in jail. From the lifestyle that he had, I'm not saying that he can't. I just don't see him able to do time behind bars. Maybe if he'd be in a camp type situation, that's a possibility. But based on the lifestyle and what he's done and what he's accomplished, if he had to go behind those bars for a lot of years, I think that he may commit suicide. He'd do an Epstein.
Why do you think he didn't pull a Russell Simmons and leave the country?
They was watching him, bro. They was watching him. And then I think that he had to turn over his passport. Even if you own your own private jet, they have a system up there whereas that they supposed to check your passport and anything that you need to fly as if you were flying commercial.
It's almost guaranteed that Diddy was already paying off prisoners for protection while he was in the MDC. 15 inmates wrote letters in support of Diddy to the judge. That is not normal. You're telling me that Diddy, a man who is women on tape, was so nice that other inmates started writing letters in support of him? What about the guy who tried to shank Diddy?
I think it's a little bit crazy that yesterday we had Diddy talking about how horrible the jail was, how much violence there was, and how he was even threatened in jail, to today him having 15 prisoners send letters to the judge to help him get free during his sentencing hearing. And honestly, I think it's crazy that Diddy has 15 prisoners that were willing to write him letters, but none of the famous people that rock with him for years have sent in any. I mean that seriously. honestly, the only person of notable fame that sent in a letter for Diddy in these character letters is literally Carisha. Just yesterday, we finally found out exactly how Diddy is saying that he was threatened by an inmate, but it's not exactly written how you would think. Diddy claimed yesterday an inmate approached him with a shiv and told him something when he was sitting on a chair that inmate wanted to sit on. But Diddy is also saying in this motion he's been so reformed in jail that he didn't react when usually he would, and that was able to diffuse the fight. Now today, Diddy has submitted 15 letters from 15 different inmates that are saying how amazing he is and how they are changing his perspective, and he is helping their time in prison. Diddy is actually a tutor in jail, and some of these inmates are talking about their experiences with Diddy being a tutor. Because of this class, I have purpose, something to look forward every day. Then another one says, he showed us that it's little adjustments to our everyday lives that add up to a big change. Mr. Combs' class is about setting up realistic goals and where we plan on going to achieve and complete these goals on a weekly basis. We review our progress of our stages on our objective. My life testimony is how positive Mr. Combs teaches us about how chasing the easy money is the wrong way to achieve greatness. He has shown me that it's never too late to start, nor is it ever too late to achieve your dreams. The free game class with Mr. Combs has affected me in a good way, as it has impacted me because I've learned many things like how to create a successful plan, and the plan has to be realistic. Another one says, I was really appreciative to receive some knowledge of some sort to take back to the real world and to not have to think about doing something illegal.
Diddy is lucky. He got off with just 50 months. That's less than 1/3 of what the federal guidelines recommended. And there's a good chance Diddy's status helped him. Diddy didn't get charged for the guns found at his house. He didn't get charged for the drugs. And he didn't even get any assault charges, even though he was caught on tape and confessed to it. If getting away with this much wasn't enough, President Trump is now talking about a potential pardon for Diddy.
So he got off like a fat rat in a cheese factory. But for a dude like Diddy, going to jail and spending all that time, you know, I'm not saying it's going to be rough or nothing like that, because his former president of Bad Boy, Kirk Burroughs, with the federal jail. You understand? Lil' Kim with the federal jail. So, you know, because the type of dude he is, you know, he'll make it, he'll be all right. And plus they're going to send him to a camp, bruh. He'll be in somebody's camp or somebody's dormitory, whereas that it'll be real light for him. So, you know, he'll see the streets back again in 24 months. He'll be out within 2 years. It seems like a lot saying 50 months and everything like that, but it's not really a lot, not at all, bro. It's not a lot at all.
Just 3 days after Diddy was sentenced to over 4 years in prison on prostitution charges, President Donald Trump seems to confirm he's heard from the mogul's legal team. The comments coming Monday from the Oval Office as reporters asked about a pardon for Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, who's serving 20 years for child trafficking.
I wouldn't consider it or not consider it. I don't know anything about it, but I will speak to the DOJ. I don't know. I mean, I'd have to speak to the DOJ. I'll look at it. I have a lot of people who have asked me for pardons. I call him Puff Daddy has asked me for a pardon.
I love Diddy. You know, he's a good friend of mine. He's a good guy. I think he's a good guy. I'm going to stick up for him.
Trump and Diddy's ties go all the way back to the late 90s. Diddy was reportedly a guest at the president's 2005 wedding, and they ran in the same social circles.
One mogul after another. It's mogul time. It's your boy Diddy.
ET's cameras caught them together at this New York charity event in 2008.
It's not Diddy who is in danger. It's actually his victims. Diddy's release conditions bar him from coming in contact with any witnesses or victims. But when has that ever stopped Diddy? He was making over 200 calls a week during his stay at the MDC. The feds told the judge that Diddy was using his family to contact witnesses. The only reason the feds ever found out was because one of the witnesses reported the coercion.
With having $75 million at his disposal, isn't that by nature the exact thing that they're worried about? If you have this much money, that you could make this thing, you could probably make people disappear if you really opted to.
See, this is the thing. That'll just make more trouble. Why would he make more trouble now? He done already bought off and paid off everybody he possibly could. Have you looked at the indictment? Like, he called some witnesses up to 54 times.
Yeah, 200 and how many Angel? 200 something people he tried to reach out to.
Like, what are you running, a telethon or a telemarketing agency? Telemarketers don't make that many calls in one day. Or sometimes not even in a week, all depending on you was on that. You down for Diddy? Like, how does that conversation start? Hey, what's up? You know, I really feel bad about that last time I bashed you in the face with a Ciroc bottle. Look, we good? Like,
Cassie submitted a letter to the judge talking about the same thing. She said that she's afraid of what Diddy might do once he gets out. According to her letter, she moved her entire family out of New York because she knew that sooner or later, Diddy would come after her.
Cassie Ventura was the star prosecution witness at Sean Combs' trial and wrote this to the judge, and I quote, "For 4 days in May, while 9 months pregnant with my son, I testified in front of a packed courtroom about the most traumatic and horrifying chapter in my life. I testified that from the age of 19, Sean Combs used violence, threats, substances, and control over my career to trap me in over a decade of abuse. He groomed me into performing repeated sex acts with hired male sex workers during multi-day freak-offs, which occurred nearly weekly. I was forced into lingerie and heels and told exactly how to look and plied with drugs and alcohol so he could control me like a puppet. These events were degrading and disgusting, leaving me with infections, illnesses, and days of physical and emotional exhaustion before he demanded it all over again. Sex acts became my full-time job, used as the only way to stay in his graces, his good graces." Cassie Ventura says that she has spent the past 7 years rebuilding her life, engaging in, quote, dozens of types of therapy, but still says she has, quote, nightmares and flashbacks on a regular basis. She says that she moved her entire family out of New York for fear that Sean Combs may have some retribution in mind. She told the judge that she hopes he pays for what he did, whether the jury believed her or not.
Diddy thought he was untouchable, that his money, fame, and power could shield him forever. But now, every single thing he built is crumbling right in front of him. Behind bars, that power means nothing. And once he's out, he'll still be trapped by restrictions, by fear, and by the ghosts of everything he's done. The world finally sees Diddy for who he really is. If you want to keep up with everything happening around Diddy's prison sentence, the investigations, and what's coming next, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop your thoughts in the comments below.